It's YouTube o'clock and it's time for a new video. I'm David, let's start. Okay, so this was an intro to show what we want to achieve in this tutorial, and there will be part 2 also, and maybe even part 3, I'm not yet sure, but either way it will be soon. So let's have fun and let's start. Okay guys, so I have Blender opened, and as you can see we have a default cube and we will not need it, so I will select it by left clicking and press X and delete. And as you can see here, you will see the keys that I'm pressing on the keyboard, and the same with like mouse clicks and basically mouse actions. So that will help you to navigate and basically do what I do here on your computer. Okay, so we will start by adding a torus, and it is because we want to have like a nice even chain link, like the shape to be really nice and smooth, and to not make to model it by hand. It will be easy way to use the torus. And what I'm doing now, I'm customizing the major segments by half, from 48 to 24, and the same with minor segments. I will use 6, and the reason I'm doing is because we want to have the model as low poly as possible, at least to some point, because in general it's a good thing to keep models as low poly as possible while still having good control over the topology. But in this tutorial we also will be doing a simulation, a rigid body simulation, which is kind of heavy computational, so the less poly we have, the better. Okay, so we have this basic torus, and as you can see by pressing middle mouse, like the scroll button on your mouse, you can navigate in the viewport, and with shift and middle mouse you can basically move. You can also use those widgets to snap to views. So this is a top view, and if you navigate like that, you can also press 7 on your numeric keypad if you have one. If you are on the laptop without numeric keyboard, you can just use these widgets. There is also another way in preferences. You can emulate it, but it is not so good as an option. So I suggest, if you have a keyboard, like full keyboard, use it for working with Blender, and if not, you can just use those stuff. It will be a bit slower, but it's nice to have. Okay, so we have this base of first chain link, but what we want to do is basically like make it longer. So what I did is I pressed S to scale and Y to log by Y axis. But as you can see, it is stretching and it is like not what we want, so I press escape to cancel it. And what we will do is now hit tab on your keyboard, And as you can see, we now in edit mode, so you can see particular vertices. You can select it by left clicking, you can move them by pressing G and cancel with escape, but we do not want that. What we want to do is press 7 on your numeric keyboard, or if you don't have, you can click here, and we want to select those vertices below the x-axis and basically remove them. And the reason is that we want to extend those, and I will show you this. So what I did is I will cancel it maybe and show you again. So I'm pressing B to box select, like that, and as you can see, everything is selected because I pressed Alt Z before. So you can see now Alt Z, Alt Z. So this is called like X-ray mode, when you can select the vertices that are below. If I will not use it, and I will deselect everything and try to select it like this, you can see I only selected the top one. So make sure to have this mode selected. So I pressing 7 on numeric keyboard, deselecting everything, and just B and box select, Alt Z, 7 and B. Okay, so you have selected what we needed, and now I can just press X and remove those vertices. And what it will do, it's basically like cutting those this torus by half and leaving only one half, which is what we want. And then we can go back to this top view. By the way, zoom in and zoom out is by using scroll wheel, so it will also be handy. So we will select everything by pressing A and move G to move it, and then Y to lock to Y axis, and we can press Ctrl to enable snapping and offset it like this one bigger unit. That's, I think, will be good here. And I have deselected everything, because what we want to do is basically to mirror that shape here and connect remaining parts from this place where the cut is. So what I will do is basically go here to modifier tabs and add modifier, and in this generate column there is a mirror modifier, and nothing is visible here now because we have by default the x-axis enabled. So I will disable it and select y-axis, and as you can see, we now have it mirrored by y-axis. So like on the other side of x-axis, it is the copy of this this shape. And what we want to do now is to press 7 on the numeric keyboard and Alt Z to have this X-ray, and select those vertices, and we can make sure that we have selected everything, and we do. So I'm pressing 7 again, and what I can do now is just move those, sorry, not move, escape. We will press E to extrude, and it's like automatically extruding and changing to move, so those extruded vertices, and it's extruding, as you can see, but we want to make it like perfectly on y-axis. So I'm pressing Y, and y-axis is highlighted now, and as you can see, I can move it like that, and we can move it, let's say, here. because we want to make one more thing, which is selecting this clipping, and this basically will not allow to cross the x axis. It will like snap to the middle of the y axis, which is what we want to actually do. And so I will press G to move, and as you can see now it's snapping. I cannot move it more than to the x-axis, and I will press Y to snap to select the Y axis only movement, and I will just move it like here and accept. And because we have also this merge selected, the copied like this shape has also vertices, so here will be double vertices, but because of this merge they will actually merge, so we will avoid some shading issues and some issues with simulations. And this is usually what you want to do, at least in this case. So as you can see, I can just shade smooth, and it's kind of nice looking. No error, no weird stuff with shading. Okay, so what we want to do now is go back to this top view and press Shift A to add an empty, and we can choose arrows. It doesn't really matter, but I like to see like the orientations, and that is helpful with this mode. And the reason we add this empty is because we want to basically multiply those chainings, this one. So what we can do is with this modifier tab add another modifier, and it will be array. So in the generate column is first one, array, and as you can see we can now basically multiply those chainings. And by default we have some, like count and relative offset. And this relative offset, what is making is basically taking the width of the model and making duplicates of the same width, like with just offset by those width. So as you can see, if we make it bigger, the offset is like more distant, and if we make it smaller, it kind of overlapping. But actually we do not want that, so I will deselect it, and we want in this case expand this and check this object offset, and we will pick the object to offset now, and it is empty, which is this one. And the reason is because instead of using some arbitrary like value of offset, we want to this empty to control it. And you cannot see anything now because it is this empty is in its origin place, so like it was no offset. And now as you can see, I press G and move it, and we can see more copies of these chainings appear. I'll cancel it quickly and go back here. We can leave those number now, but okay. So let's just maybe center it a bit and make it like that. So I will move it like that and log the y-axis, and maybe something I don't know, like that. The cool part is we can adjust it later until we apply this modifier, so I do not have to be really worry about this now. And we have this offset, which is cool, but you know, the chain links are like one is they are like rotated 19 degrees every even one, so we have to make it somehow. And actually it is really simple, because what we can do is press R with this empty selected, and press Y to separate the axis, and you can see when I'm rotating it's tilting, and it's the effect we want to have. So kind of cool trick, I would say, to use it in many situations. And we can basically type on keyboard 9090 and accept. So we have like perfectly rotated every even chain link, and we can select it and maybe type like, I don't know, 20 or something, and I will just press the Alt Z or Option Z on Mac to make it more visible by basically quitting this X-ray mode, because we don't need it now. And when I deselect it, it's looking like that, which is kind of cool already. And what we can do to make it pop out even more in the viewport is go here in the top right corner of the viewport and select cavity, check the type to both, make the ridges to 0 and valleys to full values here, like total number that is allowed. You can also experiment with shadow, but I will not do it. And as you can see, it is like more popping out in this viewport mode. What we want to do now is basically select this chain link, and we can apply those modifiers. So I will apply those here. Usually you do not want to do this unless you have the simulation requires it to have those chain links as separate objects. So we have now like one object with basically multiple chain links meshes. We will split those to separate objects, but before we will do one thing, and it is going to this simulation tab and press rigid body. And this basically is for simulation purposes. So if I press space, as you can see, something is happening. It's not yet what we want, but yeah, we already added some rigid body simulation to this object, and we need to go to collisions and change the shape from convex hull to mesh. And the reason is because we have basically holes here in those chain links, and the simulation needs to have this type of basically collision volume to understand it, to make the simulation not exploding really weirdly. And in another cases, in most cases, you will want to have this convex hull or even some primitive shapes because of performance purposes. But in this case, we have to use it. Okay. So what I can do now is go to edit mode and select everything by pressing A and press P and separate by loose parts, because every chaining is a loose part, like those vertices are not connected to vertices from this chain link, and so on and so on. So as you can see now, even in the outliner view, we have this torus 001 and up to torus 019, because it's basically 20 chainings as we had. And that is pretty much what we want, but there is one more thing. As I will select just this one and move, you can see in the middle of the model basically there is a orange dot, and this is an origin, and if I rotate it, it will be rotating by this origin. But if I select, let's say, this one and I press R to rotate, it's also rotating in this point, because all those objects were like extracted, separated from this mesh that we have before, and that's because of that we have to correct those origins for those chainings. So what we can do now is basically select one chain link and press select, and select by type and press mesh. And doing that, we will not to have to deal with camera and lamp and whatever other type of objects we can have in our scene. So that's nice thing to have. We could also of course select either by hand or by just box selecting. So in this case it's easy, but as you can see, by doing that I have selected also the empty. So I have now to shift select it, like shift click twice to deselect this empty object, because we only want to deal with those chainings. Okay, so now what we will do is press F3, and I have already something like remembered here, but if I clear it, what you want to type here is origin. So origin, and we want to use this origin to geometry option. So I'll press it. As you can see now, basically every chaining that I select have this origin in the center of the mesh, which is cool. And what we can do now to quickly check our basic simulation is to press Shift A and add a plane, and let's scale it by pressing S, and let's say, I don't know, 20, maybe S to it will be like 40 now, so it's pretty big. That's okay. Let's then move it by G and Y and move it like that, and now G and Z, and just move it a bit. And as you can see, it will be like our simulation floor, but we have to also activate it to be included in simulation. So in the physics tab, with this plane selected, we will add rigid body as before with chainings. The one difference is that we will change this type to passive, because we want to interact with chainings, but we do not want to be affected by gravity. And now when I press space, as you can see, those chainings are following, interacting with each other, and interacting with the plane, which is kind of what we want. So I press escape to escape this, basically like revert simulation, so it's back into the frame 1, because we have this timeline and it's cached simulation here. But okay, let's go back to start. And we want to have some effect like it's falling, but it's pinning to some place in space. So let's select this first link and change from active to passive, and let's press space again. So I'm pressing space, and this one is basically not affected by gravity but still in simulation, so we have this nice falling effect, and it's colliding here, sliding, kind of what we wanted. And now we also want to activate this animated, and press space and what we can try to do is just when it's simulating, we can slightly move it to see how it's behaving. If the just escape the simulation, because if you press space and you start moving it too much, it can break, so don't do that, and just in case press escape. But we have some way to basically manipulate this chain, and in another video we will add the sphere with spikes to have like flail and the handle, and also add rubber ducks to have this effect showed in a preview of the video. So I hope you liked what I showed in this tutorial, and you have learned something and had a good time, because always remember to have fun doing that. And see you in next video. Please leave the comments below, and if you like it, like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye.